Hi everyone, it's Tim. I'm back. It's Louder Than Words. That's our YouTube channel, in case you were wondering. Louder Than Words 1 is our handle, in case you're looking for us, but you already found us. Hit subscribe if you want to subscribe. Hit notifications if you want to be notified. And here we are. We are celebrating the 14th of December. A Wednesday, which we normally celebrate around here because Wednesday tends to be a day where there's not a lot going on, so we can do the things we like to do. Me and Mrs. Louder Than Words like to go play pinball. We went and played a little pinball. Well, that was actually yesterday, but it counts for today. And went into fabulous downtown San Francisco, where we looked around, watched the people skating, which was pretty awesome. Although people are not such good skaters. There's like the people who are really good skaters. There were about two of them, and it turns out they were employees whose sole job seems to me to make the other people feel bad, because they go around and spin and do loop-de-loops, and the other people just cling to the side of the thing, much, I might say, as I would. And also there's these like little penguin things that you can hang on to, and I wanted to get some skates and go around the rink, I believe it's called, but Mrs. Louder Than Words said that I couldn't. And so anyway, that was the end of a sad day in downtown San Francisco, Union Square. That wasn't really that bad. Mrs. Louder Than Words is much more encouraging than that, but more of that later. It's the 14th of December. Qatar is holding this World Cup soccer thing going on, the most popular game on the planet, okay, which is sort of, it was going to be in June, where the temperatures were going to be approximately 1100 degrees centigrade in the middle of the day. But apparently the Qataris, as they're known, had solutions for all of that. One of which was going to be to provide beer for everybody. But they decided against that at the last minute too. So I guess it sucks to be a soccer fan in the middle of the desert in Qatar at the moment. But whatever, we're not here to talk about that today. We could, but we're not going. Twitter, we want to talk a little bit about Twitter. We want to talk about the fact that Elon Musk took it over, whatever it was, a month ago, 2 months ago. This weird thing happened. He made this big pitch for it. He said, I'm going to change it. It's really bad. There's no freedom of speech. And he said, I'm going to pay all of this money for it. And he was clearly just talking out of his ass. And because the Twitter board, seeing a sucker approaching and being ready to part him from his money, said yes. And much to the surprise of everybody, probably including Elon Musk, who then was sort of stuck either having to pay this $44 billion or pay like $1 billion just to get out of it. And so somehow he managed to come up with the cash, probably borrowed it from his tanking car company, whatever, Tesla, which is also not doing very well. But anyway, borrowed a lot of money, apparently some also from the Saudis. Oh wow, the Middle East crops up again. Money being used for diabolical things yet again. But of that more later. Anyway, finally he came up with his $44 billion. They said, you got to buy it. He bought it and he said, we're going to change everything. We're going to be about freedom of speech. We're going to protect everybody. We're going to make sure there's no more child porn, and the bots are going to go away. And everything was going to be awesome. And the usual fan boys and girls were screaming and yelling, hooray for Elon. He's doing an awesome job, before he'd actually done an awesome job. But I think that in the cult of Elon, much as like the cult of Donald Trump or the cult of Kanye West, sort of this sort of adoration of people who have buckets and buckets of money for no apparent reason. Although, let it be said, Kanye West did record a couple of albums of music which were not too awful. Donald Trump never did a lick of work in his life. But anyway, so fanboys, Elon Trump, amazing job. We're all really super excited. Takes over. And this guy, honestly, it would be if you said to me, Tim, we're going to call you in and we're going to have you do this heart transplant on an elephant. And if I come and say, I know how to do it, give me $44 billion, which I'll take some of from the Saudis, and I'm going to do a heart transplant on an elephant. And everybody be quiet, and everybody, because I'm really good at because I have $44 billion, everyone's going, it's going to be awesome. And of course, the elephant wouldn't make it. The heart wouldn't even make it. I don't even know where to start to do something like that, which it's not unfair to say, is a similar sort of situation that Elon Musk finds himself in. The whole thing with Tesla, like he didn't invent Tesla, he just bought it with money that he got from his dad. He is another one of these failed businessman types who thinks that he knows way, way, way more than he does. At least I have the sort of forthrightness to acknowledge that I don't know anything about transplanting elephants' hearts, so please don't ask me. And but Elon Musk thinks that he does because he has a ton of money. He thinks somehow that he's going to come in and fix Twitter. First, let it be said that there really wasn't that much wrong with Twitter. Twitter was always a mess. It was always filled with all kinds of crap and disinformation. And the board of Twitter did move to silence people who were really putting out bad information, like, you know, COVID's no worse than getting bitten by a mosquito, or January 6th was just a few tourists distributing chocolate bars, as it were, in the Capitol building. And so there was this sort of attempt to keep the very worst things off of Twitter. And so they had a moderation panel, they had advisors and so on and so forth. But so they weren't like really coming down too hard. They left dingbats like Matt Gaetz on and the usual suspects. But it was if you were really saying the 2020 election was not won by Joe Biden, Donald Trump still the president, there was election fraud. What Twitter recognized was that this was actually not a healthy situation, and they had some responsibility as a private company with an extraordinarily wide sort of readership, as it were, to step in and say, wait a second, you know, this is really impacting people, so we have to say something. We have to say, you know what, this is not okay. And they remember they had some, maybe if you use Twitter, I didn't at the time, but they had little things saying this is in dispute, not everybody agrees with this, until some people, and then people got warnings, and people like the ex-president who continued to say the election was stolen. Finally, they said, you know, enough with this, like you're actually really causing damage after January 6th. And he kept saying, you know, he kept saying there was the election was stolen, and they decided this was not good for democracy. So reasonably enough, this private company said, you can't do this anymore, and they banned it. In rides Elon Musk. Okay, Elon Musk, a South African national, who also, just a quick aside, he didn't come straight to the United States. He went to Canada, where he crashed and burned. The Canadians, of course, that took one look at Elon Musk and said, get the hell out of here. And so he crapped out of Canada and came to America, where, of course, because he has a big pile of cash, everyone's like, what an amazing dude, buys these companies, tra-la-la, and in he rides, Mr. Not Really America. And what he's talking about, he says, I'm going to protect the First Amendment. And he comes in with this thing about what is important about Twitter and banning of people is that by banning people, we are somehow violating people's First Amendment rights. And this fundamental misunderstanding of what's going on with Twitter and with social media in general is a pernicious and sort of really, really dangerous idea. The First Amendment specifically says that the government may not restrict free speech, may not restrict speech. That I can walk down the street and say whatever I want about Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom cannot say, hey, that's no good, and I'm going to send the state police to shut you up and put you in jail. You know, if the First Amendment protects citizens or people in the country in general from being silenced by the government. What Twitter did by protecting us, or by silencing, let's say, for the sake of the argument, by silencing Donald Trump and other people who said January 6th wasn't a big deal and that the 2020 election was stolen and that COVID's no worse than getting bitten by a mosquito, a private company made the decision or the assessment that this was dangerous information and said, you can't do it anymore. It's a private company. It has nothing to do with the First Amendment. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech. The Republicans know this is a lie. They know it's not true. They know that this is just bullshit. But that if you can encourage Elon Musk and you can encourage him to keep undoing these bans and to continue to make chaos of Twitter, that it actually serves their purpose, because Twitter itself is just it's just a bunch of people yapping at each other. But in some places, it serves as a democratizing forum. For example, a political party can say something. For example, Matt Gaetz, who the Florida congressman, who is under investigation for sex trafficking, he is able to appear in public and say this and that and waffle on about whatever he wants. And Twitter constantly remembers the fact that he's under investigation for sex trafficking, and his ex-best friend, Joel Greenberg, is now going to jail for 11 years. Twitter kind of democratizes that because the mainstream media doesn't mention that. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, none of these people, or CNN, they don't mention anything about that. Twitter sort of keeps that alive. And what the Republicans know is that that's actually dangerous for them. Freedom of speech is actually dangerous for the Republicans. And so they can't actively suppress it because that would be a violation of our First Amendment rights. So having someone like Elon Musk come out and restrict our freedom of speech is way more effective, because it looks like there's this warrior for freedom of speech, warrior for the First Amendment. And all you have is this very uneducated guy with clear cognitive problems who doesn't really understand what he's gotten himself into, who is just hemorrhaging money out of this company because he has no idea how to run it, who desperately trying to figure out what to do next, and opening up all of these accounts of pro-Nazi people, ex-President Donald Trump, and a bunch of other yahoos who had been banned, all in this sort of weirdly narcissistic attempt to say, here I am, look at me doing the right thing. He desperately needs approval. He's not getting it from many of the people on Twitter who are like, what's going on? Why am I being silenced? Why am I being shadow banned? So who he's going to get it from is the right wing. Like Roger Stone, people like Donald Trump Jr., people who are saying, aha, at last, a true warrior for freedom of speech for the First Amendment is riding amongst us at our head and will lead us to the promised land, which is false. The premise itself is false. And we have to sort of take a big step back. It's not about Twitter, and it's not about stupid Elon Musk. It's about the fact that the discourse around the First Amendment has been warped, the same as the discourse around the Second Amendment, which we'll talk about on another day. The First Amendment is only about the government saying, you may not say this. Yes, the government can say you may not be violent. Yes, the government can say you may not be a sex trafficker, Matt Gaetz, although it doesn't seem to be saying that. Yes, the government has the right to stop us from committing crimes, but it has no right to stop us from speaking freely. And so how do the Republicans make that happen? How do they silence us? Is by a mechanism such as Elon Musk controlling Twitter. And this very uneducated, deeply narcissistically wounded man with oodles of money comes along and says, I'm going to ride to the rescue. He's disbanded the content moderation branch of Twitter. He has fired all of these people who actually know how the place works. He is getting rid of all of his legal counsel. He's not even paying the rent on his buildings, Mr. Genius multi-billionaire. So he's not doing the thing that needs to be done, maybe, which was clean up Twitter. Who knows? Yes, maybe there was some problems. Instead, he's actually shutting down this forum. So again, really what this has all been about tonight is about the First Amendment. Elon Musk is not a warrior for the First Amendment. So everything that's going on in Twitter has nothing to do with the First Amendment. So don't buy into that. Like, don't believe that's what's happening. And the second thing, it's damaging. What he's doing, for example, he's shut down the Ukraine country code access to Twitter. In 2014, Twitter was really important in the big protests in Kiev, in the Maidan, and where people were organizing around the big protest there before the Russians invaded. But Twitter was the main communications tool, has been in the Arab countries, where people have been able to contact each other over Twitter because it's so fast, it's so agile, the government hasn't been able to shut it down. Elon Musk is shutting it down. Elon Musk is actually opposing the operation of democracy. He's actually opposing the voice of the people. So we need to be really vigilant about this, and we need to demand more of the mainstream media. We need to demand more of the press. Tell us what's going on here and speak out against this, because we are being silenced in this sneaky way. We are being silenced in this way where the right wing can't actually stop us from speaking, but they can promote and support and ball scratch Elon Musk into believing that he's the big hero and he will do the work for them. That's the danger, is that Elon Musk is now their tool, and he is actually doing the work that they are unable to do because they're in government. And if they were to silence us, that would be violating the freedom of speech. So really be alert to this. This is, I could go on about this a little bit more, but I don't want to. We're kind of reaching the end of our time tonight. Freedom of speech is a really important issue, but Twitter and Elon Musk have nothing to do with it. It has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on, and in fact is the opposite. There is freedom of speech is being violated by this sort of sneaky, subversive action where people on the right wing in government are saying, good for you, Elon Musk, because he needs that support. He desperately needs approval. He knows he's losing money, but these people are kind of making him feel like he's doing something awesome when he is not. So speak out. If you're on Twitter, tell Elon Musk what you think about it. He knows what's going on. Everyone's going to be eventually banned who says anything mean about him. But if Twitter falls apart and he loses all that advertising money, the people who he borrowed that $44 billion from are going to come knocking. The Mr. Bonesaw from Saudi Arabia is going to be knocking on Twitter HQ and going to be asking where the boss is. But if Twitter falls apart, he loses all that money and he's going to be in trouble, which would not be a bad thing. Anyway, so that's what we have to say. Louder than words. Speak out, use your voice. It's not hard. We don't have to run down the street and set fire to our hair. We just have to make sure we're vigilant and that we're paying attention and that we are getting it done. Every day is a struggle. Every day is important right now. The democracy is in deep peril, and individually and together we have to come together to make sure that we save it. Not just for America, but for the whole world, for the future, for the kids, for their kids. Otherwise, things are going to get bleak pretty quick. That's it. Louder than words. Louder than words. 1. Subscribe. Hit notifications. Ciao. Bye. Thank you.